Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat, the show where we take a deep dive into some sort of recent bit of nerd entertainment. This week's show is going to be about the new Netflix anime Dota Dragon's Blood, which dropped last month. And as always, we say if you have not seen it and you don't want it to be spoiled, probably not the show for you. If you have seen it or you don't mind spoilers, welcome to the show. Jump into the chats. Let us know what you think. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, first person shooter on Facebook, Burley underscore adopter on the Twitters. Joining me tonight is Byron, if you would.
Hello, guys. Byron McNeil, aka Byron D0, contributing writer, uh, video content creator, and occasional social media personality. Um, Good to be here. I also do a little bit of art on the side. I'm going and if you want to see like my most recent stuff, you can check me out on Instagram at BD0Art. That's BDZEROART on Instagram.
Check it out, folks. Awesome stuff. So, as I said, tonight's show is Dota Dragon's Blood. Netflix anime dropped in March. It is based on Dota 2, the video game from Valve. Dota 2 is the commercial sequel to Dota, which is Defense of the Ancients, which started out as a fan based or fan made mod for Warcraft 3 from Blizzard.
Yes.
And ultimately, Dota 2 sort of inspired League of Legends from Riot. If you That's not what this show is about. If you want to find out about that, it is a rabbit hole that you will not come out of. Feel free to go to Google. Google's your friend for that. It's a deep, it is a very interesting story that involves mysteriously named secret developers who we still don't know who they are, and it's weird. Um,
Yeah, I say it has less toxic developers than League of Legends and League of Legends as well.
well, one would assume that, although we don't really know who they are. So I mean, we know their handles, but they're still pretty secretive. The original Dota developers.
Mm.
Um, but again, that's not what the show. This is about the anime. Senor Riso, welcome to the show. Philip Ederson, welcome to the show. Philip, right out of the gate, gives his impression this was a sick series. And I assume you mean sick in the sense of that was awesome,
Awesome.
as
Yeah.
opposed to, that was sick. Because there's some anime running on Crunchyroll right now that would fit. Um,
We do a feeler.
well, no, well, yeah, that was last season, but yeah. Um, anyway, so the story goes we have this character. We're going to bring up the sort of core team here image. The character in the middle of that image that just popped up is Davion. He's a Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight is one of the hero classes in the game. Um, and with Davion is Mirana with the tiara thing with the red jewel, a princess, guardian of a temple to Silamene, a moon goddess, and her friend, companion, Marcy, who is one of the most wonderful badass characters
Yes,
put into an
best
anime in a
girl.
long time. Definitely best girl. And above them all, you can see the dragon Slyrak. So the story has kind of two paths, and I gotta, or they merge pretty quickly, but I gotta, describe them. Davion's story is that he's a dragon knight. It starts with him fighting against a dragon. Ultimately, winds up he gets stuck in between a battle between one Eldworm, an elder dragon that has been somehow possessed by what's ultimately the Dota 2 lore and this anime's big bad, a demon called Terrorblade. And Slyrak, the big red dragon behind them in this image. Slyrak kills the other dragon, but is mortally wounded in the process. Um, talks Davion into dispatching him rather than letting him die from his wounds, and tricks him and kills Davion, and they die at the same time, which was a ploy so that Slyrak could essentially merge the two of them. And you find out pretty quickly what that means, which is kind of surprising. The other story is Marana is sort of a temple guardian for this temple, which has these magical lotus flowers that provides their moon goddess with power. And some of the flowers get stolen under her watch. She's unable to kill the person, an elf girl that takes them. And so she goes out on a quest to go recover them. Their worlds collide pretty quickly, again, right out of the gate in the first episode.
That's not the only thing that collides.
Well, that collision between those two takes a long time to build. Yeah, unless I missed something. Unless you're thinking that the woman in his bed in the first episode was Marana, it wasn't. It was just some.
No, I wasn't thinking. Okay. I'm just saying in general.
Okay.
I just wanted to make that joke.
Okay. Philip, Marcy is my favorite. Marcy is best girl.
Yes, she is.
Really, the story is the backstory. I don't know. The primary story is the tale of a desire for revenge by another playable hero from the game, a sage called the Invoker, and who is trying to get revenge on his former lover, wife, baby mama, at least, this moon goddess Selemene, that Marana worships and is
batshit,
and who is batshit crazy. Anyway, and the story over 8, short 25-minute episodes, typical anime episodes, stretches out to tell at least the first part. Obviously, it leaves you on a clear statement that there's going to be another season, and it's an ongoing series.
Damn well better be.
There has to be. So Studio Mir made this, which you can kind of tell if you look at the character designs. Studio Mir did at least the second season of The Adventures of Korra. Also did all of the new Voltron.
Your mileage may vary on the quality of that series as a whole.
As a whole, the animation was pretty good, and the voice actors run the gamut from Troy Baker to people that have been in everything but you've probably never heard of.
Yuri Lowenthal,
who I didn't. I mean, you're the voice actor person.
Yeah.
So I only know the ones that make big appearances at cons. Yuri Lowenthal has been in so much stuff. Probably most known for Ben 10, playing Ben Tennyson. But yeah, tons of other stuff.
Sasuke, Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, I give you that. Since I don't watch anime dubs, I don't pay much attention to those. But he is the dub voice for an awful lot of anime. Marana is a live action actress. Laura, I want to say Pulver. There we go. For some reason, I want to call her Purefoy. Who was probably most famously known as Irene Adler in the Cumberbatch Sherlock series.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's got some fantastic credits. And then there's a lot of others. Robert Englund is one of the big Eldworm dragons, and that's just, just
that's awesome.
Cool thing.
No, he was probably the one that was like, let's eat him. Let's just eat him.
I think he was. Philip, I think the Invoker's character is deep with emotion, and I have a feeling there's always going to be two sides of a coin with his actions. Yeah, and so
he's very complex.
He is very complex, and this is the good point when we're starting to talk about this. We'll get into what we liked, what we didn't, what worked, what didn't, and so on. So Byron, why don't you start us off with what you liked about it, what didn't you like, what worked, what didn't?
Okay. What I like, I love the use of the lore. Like, I haven't played Dota in a very long time, so there was a lot of stuff that was definitely a refresher for me. Like the world, the like especially the lore of the Dragon Knights. I love their code where they were just where they have like this Native American hunters type of respect for their bounties, where you honor the kill. You thank your prey for their sacrifice.
Yep.
So
Although even that's a little complex because while they do that and they profess that, their motivation, Davion hates dragons because they killed his family.
mm-hmm.
Caden, you know, hunts dragons so that he can get dragon armor to protect himself so he can hunt better dragons. So
Yeah,
yes, they do it, and they make a point about honoring their kill, but there's a
yeah,
lot of
it's
that in the
definitely more
show.
complex than all of that.
Exactly. So I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, um, the visuals were amazing, especially the lighting was just it, it really took me back to Legend of Korra and just
Yep.
some
And
of the
while you're
shows like
talking, I'm
Hero.
popping up some images. This is Slyrak.
Yes. Oh
This is
yeah, Slyrat was just like every time like he took over Davion, I'm just like yes. He was just I always love like that reluctant good guy character who's kind of just like as soon as you go to sleep, I'm going to kill everybody in this room.
cool,
Those are
cool.
yeah, yeah. He it's like they both have the same goal, but one is not as tethered by the other's morality.
That's
And
100% true.
yeah, and those like I see those kind of characters a lot in Japanese media, and it's always so much fun to see them on screen
Yeah.
because they usually like that's usually the archetype for like an anti-villain, which I feel like not every writer gets right the anti-villain because they kind of just like we tend to think of like the villainous characters as like we tend to think of the villainous characters as just straight up evil or like the honorable villain, but they are a lot hard. They're a lot harder to write than say anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a good designation for Slyrak. He's
yes.
pretty much an anti-villain. You could
Oh
never
yes,
call him a
absolutely.
hero,
Oh
but
no, he's definitely not heroic.
yeah, um, yeah,
He kind he kind of reminds me of like a darker version of Ignale from Fairy Tale.
okay,
Yes, it's like because like
and so much better written because Fairy Tale. God. Anyway,
yeah,
so
like but it's that same kind of deal where like the dragons are trying to maintain the balance, but they're nowhere near as noble as the dragons in Fairy Tale.
right,
They're just like we're the gods, we're the big bosses. You follow us. We don't work with you.
pretty much, and they can pull that off. So other things that you liked or didn't like.
The music was phenomenal. Like I just like every background composition really just fit the mood of each scene.
I
And
will have to
while
say,
like
so
nothing really sticks, hmm?
I'm not as much of a music guy as you are. So because I didn't notice the music, I think you're probably right. I
Yes,
notice it when it's tonally way off, and there was none of that in
yeah,
this.
I usually do too. Like it stuck out to me significantly, but not to the point where I can tell you what track is on when if you played it for me now. But
Yep,
like I felt the music.
yep, cool, cool.
Um, the monster designs, the armor designs, they were. I mean, Mir has like this they've had this fantastic balance between aesthetically pleasing while being minimalist. They
Yep,
did it in Korra. They even did it in Voltron.
Yeah, on your
Yeah,
screen right now, this is Marana in her original sort of Temple Guardian armor,
yes,
with the blue and the gray or silver borders and so on. It's
yes,
really cool, but yeah, it's not stupidly complex. Um,
yeah. Like as a good example, like there are a lot there are a lot of Asian MMOs like especially in Korea that have these elaborate armor for their characters
oh, trust me, you don't need to go there, Blizzard.
or like Godfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Godfall's insane. Um,
Yeah. It's like some it reminds me of when I would read like books like read magazines like EGM, look at the art department, like the art submissions, and they would say like you don't need to do these elaborate pieces to get submitted.
uh, okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
Um, the characters were great. Like especially especially Davion. He was just he. I feel in many ways he was the heart of the story because like while the princess's name I keep forgetting it.
Marana.
Yeah, while characters like Marana and the elf girl whose name I'm gonna
Fimrin.
yeah Fimrin, while they're basically consumed by by their respective hatreds, he's trying to keep them from killing each other. He's just like, stop! I need you two to listen. Like we're all fighting the same. We're all on the same side ultimately, and it was a nice. It was nice to see a role reversal
Yep.
in one of these kind of stories, where it's usually the female character who's the heart of the party. She's like the emotionally intelligent one.
Yep.
She's the sensitive one.
Yeah, and they do a good job with that. I mean, Marana is a princess and again a devotee of a particular moon goddess. She's a temple guardian. She's not. Uh, she's a fairly rigid, tough character.
Yes.
And Davion, like I said, yeah, he's the emotional heart of the story. That's a good point.
Yes. And I love the themes, which I will get to more to later, but like the themes of revenge of and questioning religion, which I'm always on board for. As a fan of his dark materials, I'm always about any kind of narrative that makes you think.
Yeah.
Uh,
So dislikes.
dislikes. Um, Devion's mentor, whose name I'm Keenan, was it Keegan? Keenan?
Caden.
Yeah, Caden. I didn't like his speech pattern. It 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 felt so artificial.
Rorschach.
Huh?
Rorschach.
Yes.
He was Rorschach from The Watchmen.
Yeah. Just talk, or like the demon character from Invincible.
Yeah.
He just talks like this all the time because I want to sound edgy, and I need you to know that I'm a badass. And I'm kind of just like, dude, shut up. His motivation was really took me out as well because it's just like like you said, it's like I want to make dragon armor so that I can kill more dragons. But at the same time, I kind of understand. There was also an allegorical essence to that as well because it's kind of like war profiteering in the U.S. where it's just like we put more money into war so that we can fight more wars to protect peace.
So I'm going to jump way ahead here because I have to wrap this up.
Okay.
And I'm going to just quickly give my likes and dislikes, and we'll do a quick, what worked and what didn't.
Yep.
So, like you, I really like the characters for the most part. I really like the complexity of the writing. I love the design for the most part. And I'll get to the thing that I don't like about that. And I love the depth of the lore. I just kind of wish they had more of it, or they explained it more.
A couple more episodes might have done that.
If they had 10 episodes and stretch it out a little bit, yes. One of the dislikes I have is initially in the very first episode, Davion's dialogue and delivery is it's Bolin and his brother. It's really juvenile.
Yeah.
Now it quickly gets past that, but I had a friend on Facebook when he saw that this was the post said I couldn't make it past the first 10 minutes, and I was like, yeah, if you'd hung in for another 5, it gets dark fast. And once it gets darker and more complex, the dialogue improves greatly. The voice acting is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Even Anson Mount, who is Caden, is once again, absolutely redeeming himself from the Inhumans. But that idea of doing that,
Black Bolt?
Yeah, he was Black Bolt.
I could hear his voice. I could have never told you.
Exactly. And but that's another thing I disliked. I agree with you that his decision to sort of do this, well, the decision to write him as kind of like Rorschach and then to do the dialogue like Rorschach was poor. My problem with the design is that it is often incredibly derivative.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, let's go back to that. There we go. I mean, look at that. That's Guts. That's young Guts. No question.
Yeah.
They get to the Sage's Tower.
Feel...
Hold on. They get to the Sage's Tower, and it's Orthanc. It's not like Orthanc. It is Saruman's Tower. 100%. And I'm like, come on, folks. Anyway. But those are sort of nitpicky things. So, I kind of looked at that and went, okay, so, you've got...
I'll play devil's advocate on that for a sec, though.
Okay.
That's kind of the risk you run when you are working in the arts. Like, sooner or later, you're going to rear in a similar car.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's no question that some of the stuff is obviously inspired by. I just thought, the tower thing was just so spot on. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Come on. And that's really the only thing I disliked about it, other than it needed more time. It needed more time to flesh stuff out because the story becomes a little difficult to follow.
At times, yes, it does.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Some of it is because they assume that their fans know Dota lore. Some of it is just because they didn't have the time to explain it. But it was a problem. But that was pretty much it. I mean, I really like it. The story is created by somebody named Ashley Miller, or Ashley Edward Miller. He wrote a couple of episodes, I guess, and was executive story editor for a bunch of them for Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I loved. Wrote the screenplays for Thor and X-Men First Class. So
I cared more. I liked First Class more than the original Thor, but
yeah, I like them both. Now, granted, he didn't write the stories for either of those. He wrote the screenplays. So I appreciate what this person is doing. Wrote a bunch of episodes of Fringe, which is another one of my favorite series. So the writing is solid. The animation is fantastic. It's Studio Mir. They did an excellent job. So to wrap this all up, Byron, let's talk very quickly, and I mean very quickly, about message, meaning, and tone.
There are a couple of significant messages here. The futility of revenge, where you have Davion, who eventually, who when he's in the Council of Dragons, he kind of just realizes, I hate you, but I'm not an idiot.
Right. And he said, I hate you. I hate all dragons. But this demon that you guys are calling Terrorbane is way worse.
Yes.
So.
And it opens the door for some real development between him and his hatred and his relationship with Slyrack.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole Moon Goddess backstory where she's like, do you love me? And these devout followers are just like, yes, I do. And then it's like, if you love me, then die for me. And it's just like, there were times I'm just like, dude, that's a little on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because like I grew up in a very devout Protestant Christian family, and one of the themes that I always heard being passed around was like dying daily or self-sacrificing. It's just like now as almost 40 something adult, I'm kind of just like, I gotta look out for myself too. If I can't help anyone if I'm dead.
Exactly.
And last point I wanted to make on that is just the whole like the moon goddess's like relationship with her with the priest guy whose name I'm forgetting.
He actually was never given a name. He's just called the Invoker.
Yeah, the Invoker and their daughter.
Yeah.
But it was really refreshing to see a child character be the voice of reason in that kind of scenario.
Yes.
Yes. She's just like in those kind of scenarios, usually the child who was like the irrational, emotional one, and she's like, no, it's like you fail at doing your one job. You don't get to decide the terms.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually really surprising. So I agree. I also think that an awful lot of the, I don't know if it's sort of the message, but the tone of the series is that everything is always more complex than you first think it is.
Absolutely.
And good or ill, they actually do, like when you first sort of are introduced to the goddess Salamene, you kind of think that she seems to certainly be devoted to her worshippers and her followers, and then you find out that that's not necessarily the case. She
loves being loved.
She loves being loved and desires adoration and power and worship more than anything, including her own daughter. Ultimately, Marana, her tale goes from being someone who's dedicated to that goddess and the temple and trying to correct her mistake, to understanding a little bit of the more complexity of the whole situation and working with the elves who worship a different, now apparently deceased moon goddess. And at the very end, ultimately saving the people that were the other temple guardians and so on that she was sort of responsible for. She doesn't go completely back to where she started, but she goes a lot towards that direction.
Yeah.
It's everybody in this show or almost everybody is pretty complex. Caden's, grumpy Bruce Wayne with Rorschach's voice.
Who was the soldier? Who was that soldier lady who?
Oh, Luna.
Yes, Luna.
Yeah, with the weird blade thing.
Yeah, I get the feeling that she's going to get some sort of redemption arc eventually.
I think so too. Igrexi, I think. Ooh, okay, whatever. I'm assuming you're talking about the topic. And if not, well, that's your decision to say that as well. Anyway, I'm gonna have to wrap this up here, folks. Recommendation, Byron, yes or no?
Yeah, I definitely say give it a watch if you love fantasy. If you're a fantasy fan, this is going to be your jam. If you're a fan of animation, hell yes. If you love, if you love dragons, magic, all that good stuff, check it out.
Yep. Yeah, particularly if you're familiar with the Dota lore, definitely check it out. Even if you're not, it's definitely worth a watch. You got to give it a little bit of slack, or cut a little bit of slack, because it does kind of make some assumptions that you know the lore. Anyway, folks, on that note, thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for the chats, Philip, Igre, Senior Riso. We'll see you next Thursday. Mortal Kombat is the topic. Mortal Kombat.
Coming up soon, huh?
Coming up soon.